just as the beam of a flashlight cannot be directed towards the bulb from which the light proceeds, so our attention cannot be directed towards that which illuminates or knows our experience. In order to find the answer to the question as to what it is that is aware of our experience, our attention must subside or relax. It is the only question there is that involves the subsidence or the relaxing of attention, not the focusing of attention. Don't try to find or know the awareness that illuminates our experience as an object of experience. The only way to know that is to be that knowingly. In other words, be knowingly the awareness with which all your experience is known. It doesn't matter what you are experiencing. Be interested in that which experiences. Take your stand as that. Be that knowingly. As the mind disengages from the content of experience and sinks more and more deeply into the presence of awareness, which is its source or from which it arises. It gradually loses the agitation that it derives from the content of experience and subsides in peace, like a particle of water sinking from the tempestuous surface of the ocean into its still depths. Feel that you, awareness, are like an ocean of peace that lies just behind or beneath the content of experience. Witnessing or knowing experience with a disinterested but affectionate attention. Disinterested because you, awareness, do not stand to gain or lose anything from the content of experience. And affectionate because there is no rejection of any aspect of experience. All experience is welcomed or allowed equally. See that the fact of knowing, being aware, or awareness itself touches all experience intimately. But no experience touches awareness. By which I mean, no experience leaves a trace on awareness. Changes it, modifies it, affects it in any way. See that the content of experience is always changing. The presence of awareness always remains the same. Instead of being established, instead of living in the turbulence of your thoughts and feelings, be established in the peace of awareness. Live in that, as that. And as we do so, we begin to feel an imperturbable peace permeating the flow of experience. Ask yourself the question, if awareness could speak, what is the first true thing it would say about itself? I am. Only that which is aware can know its own being, let alone anything else. And therefore, the words I am refer specifically to awareness's knowledge of itself, of its own being. Each of us can say from our experience, I am. The knowledge I am is like a beacon that shines in each of our minds, directly indicating the presence that lies behind the mind. To reformulate that statement in religious language for the devotees and mystics amongst us, the knowledge I am is God's name sounding in each of our minds that indicates God's presence in each of our hearts. As such, the knowledge I am is both the highest knowledge and the deepest prayer.
So my question is about awareness, and when the inquiry go to the I am, or which has confused me. That's so utterly simple that it just seems too simple to even be significant, and it doesn't lead to peace and happiness. Like when it sort of clicked at lunchtime, I just kind of said, so what?
If I were to ask you now, what is it that is aware of your experience? What would you say?
Just a knowing.
That's it? There you are. That's it. Just in that pause, I asked you the question, what is it that is aware of your experience? You paused. It's just a knowing. That's it. You went to awareness. Knowing and awareness are synonymous. Now, you say it's not very significant. Imagine removing awareness now from your experience. What would remain?
Nothing.
So awareness is quite significant.
Yes.
Awareness is the one element that makes all experience possible. Imagine if there was nothing called light. It would not be possible to see anything. It would be total darkness. Light is the one thing, relatively speaking, that renders the world visible. Well, consciousness is like a knowing light, a light made out of knowing, not made out of... So it's the one thing, which is of course not itself a thing, that makes that renders experience knowable. It's the most significant factor in all experience. It is the one indispensable element in all experience. You can do without the sensation of your hand on the mic. You can do without the taste of tea. You can do without the sight of this room. You can do without the feeling of loneliness. You can do without any individual element of experience. But the one thing you cannot do without is consciousness. It is the most fundamental, primary, essential element of experience, but because it is transparent, empty, silent, because it doesn't show up in the content or as an object of experience, most people overlook it. Most people overlook it to the extent that they go through their whole lives without ever even noticing its presence. If we were to say to most people, not those of you here, of course, but just out on the street, to tell us about your experience, there would be a long list of thoughts, images, feelings, memories, sensations, sights, etc., etc., etc. They wouldn't mention consciousness. They would overlook the most important, fundamental, intimate aspect of experience. Why? Because it's transparent. You can't perceive it. It doesn't show up on the screen of perception. And yet, at the same time, it's all there is to experience. It's like someone, they're watching a movie and you ask them to describe what they see. And they say trees and fields and rocks and skies and people and cars and houses. They don't tell you the screen. They overlook the screen because they're focused on the object. Actually, all they're seeing is the screen. But they don't see it. All we are knowing is the knowing of experience. All you have ever experienced is consciousness. And yet, because consciousness doesn't show up as an object of its own experience, it overlooks itself. We pay for that overlooking of our true nature with our innate happiness. So it's significant.
Hi, Rupert.
Hello.
So this is a bit of a related question. I find that while I understand what I am and I'm able to return to being consistently now, my attention is like an unruly child, and I find that my attention has gone off to, typically it's a thought that seems to divert me, not sensations, not physical issues, but it's a thought, and it's not conscious thought. It's not, I have no issue with when I sit and I want to think about something. That's a very different tenor than, almost I'd call it daydreaming, sort of just a thought shows up, no different than a bird, perception of a bird flying by. It has no other, there's no more substance to it than that, and yet my attention locks onto it, and it's as if lights go out, and all that is seen is the thought and the feelings and sensations that accompany that thought. And when I remember, I go right back again. But I'm a little tired of that exercise. It's I don't understand the point of it. I don't know why I don't have the ability to choose. You know, if you think of the infinite awareness and being, the power of being, why is it that being can't choose not to let this focused beam of attention go off in that way? When does that stop happening? And you know, I've prayed for it to stop happening. I've got the intentions. I'm conscious of what I am. There's no doubt in my mind anymore, and I'm just wondering, what do you see as the practice to aid in that journey?
You see, Bill, being gives itself utterly, intimately to every experience. It holds nothing of itself back. It reserves nothing of itself for itself. It just gives itself totally. And hence being loses itself in the experience of thinking, unites with it completely, holds nothing back. It's only as a first step in the Vedantic approach that the teaching suggests separate yourself out from your thoughts. The only reason for doing that is to draw attention, for being to come back to itself, to draw attention to itself. It has lost itself so completely. It has not lost itself. It has given itself so fully to the experience of thinking That it has, in a way, it has sacrificed itself to the experience. And the price it pays for that sacrifice is the overlooking of its innate peace. So as a first step, the teaching says, separate yourself from thinking. Know yourself as the knower rather than the known. But it's an artificial step. It's like trying to separate the screen from the image. We can't really do it. It's just, for one whose attention is lost in the drama of a movie, it is legitimate initially to say, see the screen behind the movie. No, the screen is not behind the movie. That would suggest there were two things. Awareness is not really the witness of experience. We can't separate ourselves. It's just a pedagogical step in order to help us to re-establish ourselves as pure being, pure knowing. And then you go back to the experience of thinking, and you can give yourself completely to it again. So that when you're having the experience, I am thinking, you don't... thinking just loses its power to veil the I am. So the I am shines in the midst of the thinking, not just behind it. Initially, we first find being behind thinking, the witness. And once that practice has established our true nature of pure being, or pure knowing, then we give ourselves back fully to experience, to thinking in this case. There's no need to separate ourselves out. No need to distance ourselves from experience. You take the thought, I am thinking, and the I am is shining in the midst of the thinking, not just in the background of the thinking. And then you can think as much as you like, or be involved in activities, relationships, and so on. You find yourself shining in the midst of all experience, not just in its background. So, and then thinking is no longer problematic. There's no longer a back and forth, either or. Either thinking or being. Either thinking or consciousness. It's not like that's just an early stage. Stop disciplining your attention. Let your attention free. Let it follow the thought wherever it's going. And just check at any moment, am I not present in the midst of the thinking? Say to yourself, I am thinking, I am daydreaming, I am miserable, I am depressed. I'm not saying you, but I am lonely, I am sad. Instead of emphasizing the thinking, the loneliness, the depression, magnify the I am in the midst of experience, not just behind experience. And then you're safe everywhere. You go out into the world and think as much as you like. I love thinking, as you know.
Hi Rupert, my name's Michael. It's great to be here. So I have a question. Over time, the more I focus on I am, or the sense of I, the greater the concentration gets, the more I can abide in it, and it starts to thin out, and every now and then it may dissolve, but it comes back. But majority of the time, there's a quality to that I sense, a tangibility, which means that there's a knowing of it, which means it's not the pure I. And what I'm wondering is, do I just keep abiding and holding on or relaxing into that I sense and let it dissolve? Or should I be redirecting my attention to that which knows that I sense? And that seems more effortful, but if I just abide in the I, there's a knowing that that's not what I am. And I'm just wondering if you could give me some advice.
Tell me your name again.
Michael.
Michael, yes. Michael, we cannot pay attention to the I. Why? Because attention from tendere in Latin, meaning to or towards, and tendere meaning to stretch. And attention is always the stretching of ourself towards something. So the best analogy for this would be like the beam of a flashlight. The beam of the flashlight proceeds from the bulb, and it's directed towards an object. The only thing you can't shine a flashlight on is the bulb from which the light proceeds. You can shine it on everything else apart from the bulb. The only thing we cannot pay attention to is ourself, because ourself is the source of attention. It's the light of knowing, from which attention proceeds. So attention is always a stretching, a tendere, a stretching of ourself, a stretching of awareness towards an object. So initially, because we are used to paying attention to 10,000 things, the spiritual traditions replace those 10,000 things with one thing in order to gather and steady our attention. It says, instead of paying attention to thoughts, feelings, relationships, pay attention to one thing, your breath, the mantra, the flame, whatever it is. And as a result of this, we tend to think that meditation is a focusing or a directing of the attention. Well, if it is, it only is in the very early stages. Meditation is not really a focusing. The meditation techniques that involve the focusing or directing of attention are just preliminary techniques. Perfectly valid, I'm not criticizing, they're valid. But meditation, true meditation, is the relaxing of attention. It's not the directing of attention towards an object, it's the relaxing of attention back to its source. It's, instead of the light flowing from the light bulb towards the object, the light flows, imagine the light flowing in the opposite direction from the object back into the light bulb. That is meditation, that's prayer. That's the highest form of meditation. So you, from what you say, I get the impression that you're not paying attention to an object. Your meditation is sufficiently refined not to be paying attention to an object, but there's still a residual impulse in you to pay attention to something. And you're trying to make the I something you can attend to. You can't. So let go of the idea of focusing, directing, controlling, attending. It's the opposite of that. It's a sinking, a relaxing, a letting go, a flowing backwards, sinking down. So think more in terms of, forget the idea of attention. Think more of simply being. What do you have to do now? If someone were to say to you now, simply be, what would you do with your attention?
Just drop it and relax. Not even drop, because that's a doing. Just relax.
Do you even have to relax? Why do you have to relax to simply be? Do you have to do anything at all to simply be? No. Don't make relaxing, dropping, a prerequisite for meditation. That all belongs to the progressive path. Nothing wrong with the progressive path, but it's not what we do here. Remember Ashtavakra. Happiness belongs to that supremely lazy person for whom even blinking is too much trouble. Letting go, it's such hard work. Relaxing takes so much effort. But being, how much effort does it take to be? Being is the only thing there is, which is of course not a thing, that is literally effortless. It requires less effort to be, as Ashtavakra said, than to blink. Even blinking requires a little contraction of muscles, but to be requires less effort than that. So forget about attention. Forget about meditation. Do you know, Ramana Maharshi never recommended meditation. He used to say, I'm paraphrasing, not quoting. He used to say, why do you want to meditate? Why meditate? Just be. So forget meditation. even abidance in being. All of these phrases, they're all legitimate. I'm not criticizing them. I use them myself. But even abiding in being, who would abide in being or not? Who is there to abide in being or not? What entity might choose for a certain time of the day to abide in being and then not? There is no such. That we are already, that there is only that already. Just be that. You are that already. Even to say be that is too much. But if we have to say something, just be is the best we can say. That's that. Apart from this, what Ramana Maharshi referred to as the highest eloquence, apart from silence, that's right on the top of the mountain. If you take one step off the top of the mountain, just be. And, this is sometimes not understood. Self-inquiry was not Ramana Maharshi's highest teaching. In fact, it wasn't even his second highest teaching. It was his third highest teaching. Highest teaching, top of the mountain. Silence is the highest eloquence. If you don't understand that, take one step off the top of the mountain, just be. If you don't understand that, take another step down the mountain. Ask yourself the question, who am I really? But that was only for those of us that couldn't sit with him in silence on the top of the mountain and hear this highest eloquence, or who could not simply be.